Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Are you ready? Let's get ready to ramp up your sales. And now the man you've been waiting for. He is the real Thrilla in Manila. The undisputed, undefeated, reigning, defending, pound for pound, heavyweight John, the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sales Machine Podcast. You are not going to believe who I have here today. This is going to be an amazing resource for you, for your business. So the individual that I have here is a definition. He really defines that, quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And he resonates this. From the beginning, I met him and traveled the world with him, learned from him. And believe me, if ever there was a fan, it would be me, because I have every single resource this guy has put out. From the ABCs to building and running a successful business himself already, to team code of honor, building an honor system within your team of accountability, which we talk about in the sales machine with the SMART framework all the time. We talk about the accountability aspect of team code of honor. SalesDogs. This guy is just a genius, because everybody out there thinks that sales are a way of convincing and closing people, whereas Blair, unlike others, knows that sales is really service. And it's doing something for people, not to them. And you don't have to be a genius or a born salesperson to actually be successful in sales, because ultimately, every one of us have our own being, and we all need to just be authentic within ourselves. And this is what Blair brings out in people, not just, locally or for his company. He does it with companies all over the world. We're talking about Singapore Airlines, the number one rated airline in the world. I don't even know how many times, because I get tired of counting. That's a fact. Blair is responsible for that. So if you have challenges in your business, imagine if you could be the next Singapore Airlines in your industry. He also works with L'Oreal, one of the global leaders in cosmetics, skincare. This is Blair Singer, because he knows how to bring out the best in people. And he also knows, when we talk about psychology, methodology built into technology, he knows that our biggest enemy sometimes is ourselves. Let's be honest, folks. It's ourselves. The first person you need to get good at selling is you. You've got to convince yourself that sales is doing something for others, not to them. Service, right? Solving problems, making sure they're satisfied. Blair Singer bleeds this. Not only does it bleed it, he created courses so you can implement it into your business step by step, little by little, every day, every day, every day. And then you can see the results that your team starts to make over time. Literally brilliant. He is so brilliant. There's one man that I spent 8 days with in South Africa, and that's Robert Kiyosaki. Had breakfast with him, had lunch with him, learned the fundamentals of wealth with him. He doesn't allow anybody to train his salespeople but Blair Singer. And not only that, Success Resources, their programs, you heard of that company? Yeah, Blair Singer. No one facilitates and implements better than Blair, because they know he wrote the code of honor. And that's why I admire him. Besides the fact he taught me one of the biggest lessons in my entire life. I seen the authenticity in Blair, and at one of the events he was running, I had the honor of actually training with him, talking about the keys to sales and how to scale a business. And I remember when he showed me a video of taking my life, personal development as well as professional development, to an entirely new level. And I watched him guide multimillionaires, high net worth individuals up Mount Kilimanjaro. And I just fell in love when I saw him with his son. And as you can see behind me, I had a son, and my lady Vanessa was pregnant at the time. And so I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with Blair. But along the way, I was seriously challenged. I have type 1 diabetes. What we didn't know is this insulin has an altitude effect, and my blood sugar tanked, and I was in danger, dropping to like 45 blood sugar level. And Blair called me out. I kind of hit it, right? And only my tent mate knew. And he said, "We need to talk about it, John." And I said, "Yeah, but I can't quit." And I had the ultrasound of Sky with me. And I said, "I need to do this for my boy." And he said, "No, you need to figure out what mountain are you really trying to climb? Because what's more important, getting to the top of this mountain or getting back down so that you can be a father?" And that's why I have the highest level of respect for a man who's taught me how to actually recruit, train, retain, and scale a business at the highest levels. And if you guys want to learn from someone who is authentic, has more integrity than any man I've ever met, it's trusted by Robert Kiyosaki, success, resources, and people all over the world, the biggest companies in the world, then you should really follow this man, Blair Singer, because I know he's made an enormous difference in my life and my business, and he can make one in yours. So grateful to have you here, Blair. It's my honor. You said earlier it's your honor to be on, but it's really my honor because I honor and respect you, and I'm grateful for you both personally and professionally. And I'd like to, find out what's going on with you and how you are still changing the world and what's going on, and find out a little bit, some nuggets about how you can help people make a real difference in their business right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Blair Singer.
Well, thank you. And the reason I said, John, and the reason I said it's an honor for me to be on the podcast with you is because, as you've mentioned, I've worked with thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in over 30, 40 countries around the world over the years, right? There's a lot of people that say, yeah, I got it. I get it. Then there's a fewer number of people that actually do something with it. And then there's even a fewer number of people that do something with it and make great things happen. And you're in that very, very small percentage of people. And you've helped change the lives of thousands all across the world. And you continue to do so. We were just, before we started here, you're known as great business owner, business builder, great entrepreneur, great father, great husband. But you also said, right now you just mentioned, you said, I really just want to teach people. And that tells me a lot, because in the thing that attracts me to you and you to me is the fact that deep somewhere in our gene pools, there's some desire to teach other people how to teach other people how to teach other people how to win, how to be more of themselves. In personal development, it used to be like, let's find out what the hell is wrong with you and work on it and pry that out of you. I think that what you know and that I know now after all these years is not about all that. I mean, you could do that for the rest of your life, but finding out what works in another person, what really does work, and focus on that, make more of that, find out what everybody's got some unique ability and to focus on that, all the other garbage goes away. All the garbage shows up when you're trying to do something that you're not good at doing. It's not what you're supposed to be doing, and la da 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 da. And your brilliance is in sales. Your brilliance is now creating systems that help people sell. What do you say? You take the psychology and then the methodology and turn it into technology, I think is your words, if I got that right.
That's right.
And that's the heart of a true teacher. I mean, why do that? You could just go make a lot of money for yourself. You could go make money for your team, but no, you've decided you're creating an artifact, a tool that's going to help the world, shift the way the world sells. But they don't just sell, the way they communicate to other people, the way they influence each other. And gosh knows, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look around and see how badly that's needed, how badly it's needed for people to know how to just talk to each other, understand each other, and be able to serve each other. So Anyway, thank you. That's a long way of saying thank you and congratulations, man. I'll say one thing about that family I see behind you. That's one good looking boy. Boy, I'll tell you what.
Hey, that's one good looking mama. Let's be honest. That's why there's a good looking boy there.
Well, anyway, he's got the heart of a champion, I'm sure. So anyway, you asked me what I'm doing. As you know, I've spent a lot of my years selling and teaching people, mostly teaching people how to sell all across the board. Big companies, little companies, micro companies. And it dawned on me a few years back, like, this is good, but I grew up studying a guy by the name of Buckminster Fuller, great architect, philosopher. Robert and I both did. And he says, what can you do to make a difference? How do you make? And so I was inflicted back in the 70s or whatever with the idea that a person could make a freaking difference in the world, and never lost that bug. And I really realized that the best thing, after traveling around the world, it happened to me like around the year 2000, after going around the world twice, dude, in opposite directions in less than 10 days. Check that out. Around the world 2 times in less than 10 days in opposite directions, doing programs and teaching IBM and Singapore Airlines, all these guys. I lay in bed in a hotel somewhere going, where the hell am I? What am I doing? I am not making a dent in anything here. I'm making a dent in my health is what's happening. And I said, okay, I got some, this is not, I wanted to change the workplace. I want to improve the quality of life by transforming the workplace or marketplace. Not happening. And I said, what can I do? And I said, well, what I can do is I can teach other people how to do what I'm doing. Because if other people know what you know now, and it's not just how to sell, it's about code of honor. It's about ethics. It's about who you are as a person and how you show up, right? If you can teach other people like yourself and other people to teach that to other people, that creates a legacy for all of us. That creates a legacy so that your son, my sons, their sons, and their daughters have an opportunity to live in a world that's sane, somewhat sane, where people know how to collaborate, how to communicate, get their egos out of the freaking way, still be competitive, but be able to do it in a spirit of serving each other rather than taking each other's heads off, which is what the world seems to always resort to. So that's my focus, John, is just helping people, teaching people how to teach. We now do that in, like I said, over 30 countries around the world, got great trainers. You've turned out to be one of the best of the best of the best. And I'm just proud to say that I had a hand in it, but I think you all already knew how to help people.
Yeah. And so, but it's been a journey for me as well. I remember, when I first started out in sales, it was door to door, right? I was selling these baggy pants, running down the street, selling door to door, just got out of the military. And if ever there was, we talked about what stops people, right? Earlier before we jumped on. And for me, that's why I love to train people, is because, the systems today, especially the educational system, is not really serving. It's really teaching people how to be minions with opinions and really not going to change the world, not going to advance us, not going to advance your children, my children, or the next generation of children. And so the way I see it, building out a technology that will actually empower people to know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, so that confusion is eliminated, fear is eliminated, then people will act, right? Because obviously everyone wants to make a difference. Innately, our souls want to make a difference. What stops us is fear, chaos, confusion, and that holds people back from having that confidence to know that they can make a difference. And one of the great things that I learned from you is mistakes are good, right? Because mistakes are how we learn. And man, I'm like, wow, so I'm actually okay, right? I'm not that bad. you know Mistakes are good. I can learn from
Yeah.
these mistakes, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you kind of alluded to it before, but now, I think what you put on the table, what people should really understand, is that education is not when you and I talk about education, we're not talking about education in public schools, private schools, and that kind of stuff, because that's not education. That's schooling, that's indoctrination, it's all the stuff you're talking about. I always say there's not one problem on this planet that cannot be solved by people that know how to cooperate, collaborate, get their egos out of the way, and be a little bit creative. Everything, and it can be handled quickly. Doesn't matter if it's finances, geopolitical issues, climate change, whatever it is, okay? It doesn't matter. It can all be solved. But our school system teaches the opposite. It teaches you that cooperation is called cheating in school, okay? That in fact, that if you speak up and try to be creative, you're out of line. You get punished. And if you make mistakes, you get red marks and you're a loser. So it teaches the exact opposite of what the world needs right now. I mean, if you ask yourself, what are 3 things that my family and I need, or my business partners need to learn right now, and you wrote them down on a piece of paper, I guarantee you would not write down calculus. You wouldn't write down trigonometry. You wouldn't write down it. You would write down things like health, wealth, happiness, communication, parenting, finding the best in myself, and that's not being taught. So my quest now over this portion of my career is to teach people how to teach what people want to learn. Right now, John, I checked it out. YouTube right now, 2.3 billion people going to YouTube. 2.3 billion. Now, they're only going for 2 reasons. One is for entertainment, maybe. The other one is they're trying to learn something. And who are they going to learn it from? You shared with me that your outline for the brilliant program that you've created that all companies can use to bring their sales teams under control and to drive great results, and inadvertently give them the mindset that they need to do it. That all that stuff you put together, but you put it together with heart, not with AI. That's what you told me. No AI. That came from your experience. AI has no, I use AI. I could create a program to deliver online in about 5 minutes or less using AI. I've done it a couple times. I could do that. But the truth of it is that what you are is a leader. Whoever's watching is a leader, and your experience counts for something. The stuff that you screwed up counts for something. The stuff that you won at means something. Okay. And I had one of my colleagues, a student of mine, his name is Po Chung. He started a little company called DHL. You've heard of that company, right? He started that company in Hong Kong with 8 people and then sold it to Deutsche Post with over 200,000 employees. And we worked together on several projects in Hong Kong and the education system there. And we talked about training. He said, yeah, Blair, he goes, you're right. He goes, if you've had any success in your life, listen to these words, it becomes your societal responsibility to teach. Your societal responsibility to teach what you've learned to other people. Otherwise, it gets lost and obscured. And we live in a world where the system of education is not set up to prepare us for the future. It's designed to terrorize us of the future. As you said, that's the fear. And it's also designed to confuse the hell out of us. What we were talking about earlier, we should have recorded that too. What we said earlier is that your son's going to a Montessori now where he's learning, what's the word? Mastery. What a concept. No, you go to school for an hour, they ring the bell, you don't finish that, you go to the next class. Then they ring a bell an hour later, go to the next class. Ring a bell, you never finish anything. Nothing's related to anything. And so what it does, it builds these open loops that drive people psychotic and crazy. And then you take a test and you can't regurgitate what they told you. No experiential learning. And now we're going to label you a loser. Are you freaking kidding me? Guys like you, guys like Steve Jobs, guys like Branson, guys like, a lot of the people that you've studied with and I've studied with, these are people that at least had the courage and the insight to bust out of that environment so they could be who they needed to be. How many other multi-gazillionaires, great creators are there hiding in the weeds that are afraid of what the world's offering them when they should be emboldened? So you can see I get pretty passionate about teaching. You know?
And I actually love it. I was just in Japan. So we're taking on channel partners for the sales machine all over the world. And I was in Japan and I was speaking to 120 business owners, and a lot of them are seasoned and a lot of them, just had a business for a year to 2 years. And they asked me, what is the secret sauce, right, to actual success, right? And that's when I really just from a place and space of giving and gratitude connected the dots with the ultimate success formula that I sent through to you. Because here I was on the spot in Japan. I was looking for a channel partner for the software, the sales machine, and had no intention on training. But it's always my default mode when people, always my default mode when I see people that are challenged or struggling, it's to help people. And they asked me what not my secret, just my secret sauce, but what was my secret to success. And another gentleman went up and spoke before me. And he's extremely successful multimillionaire. Patrick, you know him. And I had no idea that they even wanted me to speak, but then they called me up. So I went up there, and I always like to take questions. Where are people at? I like to meet them where they are, not assume I know what's going on, right? Because for me, that's the recipe for disaster. I want to be relevant, right? And make sure I'm making a difference. So I went up there and I said, for me, when I first started out running my own business, it was challenging. I made a lot of mistakes. I cannot even tell you. So it was really about falling in love with why I was doing it, because I didn't like going door to door. And anybody who tells you they really enjoy it, especially, you do it as long as me, is really full of shit. Okay. I've been in this, I've been in these trenches, I have battle wounds, probably left. Direct sales can leave you scarred. Right? But at the same time, I fell in love with why I was doing it. And that was early on, it was to buy my mom a house. Now I kept doing it because I fell in love with teaching people that they could have what I have. And that is why I just continued doing it. And people were like, why do you keep doing this? Why are you still, and you're in Asia, right? I mean, really, you could live in America, you could live in Japan, Europe. Why? And I said, well, because I love to help people, taking ordinary people and showing them the way to have an extraordinary life. So fall in love with why you're doing it if you're not in love with what you're doing. Steve Jobs said, do what you love, it'll be easy, right? Well, not all of us are Steve Jobs, and not all of us have the same resources as Steve Jobs. So ultimately, if you want an ultimate success formula, fall in love with why you're doing it, for your family, to help advance humanity, and or to serve whatever's going to push your buttons. So that's what I really learned from you. And for me, everywhere I go, people are looking for that competitive advantage or how to drive performance with teams because they're challenged, right? However, for me, the competitive advantage really is training. It's what you teach, right? Because most people, they recruit people. Their training lasts 2 days. You go shadow the receptionist for a couple days, watch her, read this manual, and you got this, right? And that's not training.
No, that's not training. That's not training at all. It's not training at all, and again, you're right. That now you understand my passion and that's what I'm telling you. I must have told you this years ago that you have the heart of a teacher. You have the heart of a teacher, and that's why you're successful in sales and building teams and building businesses and all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, I don't know about you, sometimes why am I doing this? Why I'm taking on this project so I can teach how to do this to somebody else. So if it works for me, it can work for them. It can work for them and work for them, because at the end of the day, you happen to be one of those people that get off on watching other people win. And there's a lot of greedy people out there that don't like that. They see somebody else win and they get resentful and they want to poke a hole in their balloons and all that kind of stuff, which is crazy stuff. Why? Because of their fear of not being good enough and all that other stuff we talk about little voices. But yeah, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being a teacher. And if you're watching this and you're at all motivated by anything we're talking about, you're a teacher too. So think about what you're doing, like John says, and why you're doing it. Because at the end of the day, the world needs more teachers. And I always say this: leaders are teachers, and teachers are leaders. They go together. In other words, you don't separate the two. I'm a leader, but I'm not a teacher. That's bullshit. You're both, whether you know it or not. The minute you stand up in front of a room on a camera or whatever, people are already looking at you as a role model of some sort, whether you like it or not. Okay. When I've been to the Buddhist, one of the largest Buddhist temples in the world outside of Bangkok in Thailand several times now. And the senior monk that I met with there each time told me there's 3 criteria for being a great teacher. Number 1 is what you're teaching relevant. Okay. He said that's important. It's got to be relevant to who you're talking to. We talked about that before. He goes, but that's not the most important. He goes, more important than what you're teaching is the way you teach it. The way you teach it. What's the methodology, as you said? What's the methodology that you're using that caters to the skill set as well as to the psychological or the personal development side? You said it before, that sales is your number 1 skill, right? But not why most people think, because the number 1 skill is in entrepreneurship is sales. But the number 1 sale is you selling you to you, is to get past yourself. It's like, well, I don't think I really want to be in great shape. You get up in the morning and go, oh, too tired. I don't want to go to the gym today. Your little voice goes, come on, you said you're going to go. Yeah, but maybe I'll go tomorrow. Right? So that battle, you've already lost the battle. That's the number 1 battle of all. You would go down. The value of a cold call is not selling anything. It's getting your mind to the point where you don't give a shit what people think about you. So that at that point, as you grow in your career, that you're able to deliver your gift to the world without walking on eggshells, man. To be able to do it without encumbrance. Okay. So again, it's the methodology is number 2. Number 3, he said, the most important part of being a great teacher is who you are as a person, how you show up. Your kids, when your kids see you and they watch your actions, they can see right through you. You can say whatever you want to them, but they know the truth. They totally know. And so as we grow up, that we still have that ability. So are you the real deal? People say, I got to be authentic. What's that? All I know is you're either real or you're not real. Okay. And I always tell people that teaching is not a performance. If you ever watch John, you ever watch me, we are not performers. We're having a conversation with you. That's all this is. Sales is a conversation with somebody. How do you know what they want? Helping a person get what they want is probably one of the greatest services you can give to somebody else. Think about it. Anytime you've lost your keys, you're running around the house. I'm going to be late. Where are my keys? Where are my keys? My whole day is ruined. All of a sudden they show up under a folder or something. You go, there they are. That moment where you find those keys, how do you feel? You feel, yeah. All of a sudden everything changes. Life is work. I'm in the gold zone. Everything's great. That's the power of getting what you want. That's the power of getting what you want. And people forget about that kind of stuff. So like I said, I think that teachers are leaders and leaders have got to be teachers. It's no option anymore. We can't rely on schools to teach our kids or teach ourselves. We got to rely on each other. Your unique ability is teaching sales, and teaching growth and teaching entrepreneurship. Someone else's may be in working with teams. Somebody else's is in health management. Someone else is in, just learning how to learn. All these things. And we can get more people to understand that, then we can change the course of history in my mind.
Absolutely. I had another situation because I still run, big sales teams, well over 1,000 different people doing skincare, car care, real estate, advertising, and now software. And, for me, it's amazing to see how many people hold themselves back and don't actually give themselves an opportunity to sell themselves on themselves. However, it's really a blind spot from my experience teaching people that obviously sales is sleazy or it's doing something to people, not for people. But when I reframe them and I give them the opportunity to understand that, actually sales is helping others. And I don't know about you, but that's my mission in life, is to help. And the way I do that is by providing opportunity and training. And that's been my competitive edge. It's just, you give me a marker and a whiteboard or a flip chart, and I'm good to go. I don't need a PowerPoint presentation. I don't need anything. I've had the ability to speak and without any preparation at all. And like in Japan, I just went up there and the previous speakers spoke and they talked about their 3 Ps: passion and people and the product. The product really has to work, right? And I just went up and just grabbed I needed a red marker because I drew a heart around what they said and then talked about the ultimate success formula is actually falling in love with either why or falling in love with what you're doing and who it's helping, because then it becomes effortless. Like I've sat in training rooms for 8 hours, 10 hours with people and they're never bored because they're interacting. And that's just a competitive edge. And I watched you do that on stage globally around the world. We actually trained in Vietnam together. I remember when you introduced me and it was so funny because you're like, this John Rankin's guy, this guy is out of his mind. Like, we climb Mount Kilimanjaro together. You said, I can't hold a candle to this guy in the direct sales. He's got thousands of guys, but he just has a different way of explaining how to do things differently, but same DNA. We come from the same place and space. And what I learned from you during that time training with you together was how you brought out the best in each and every individual. And for me, based on what's happening right now in the world, more importantly than ever before in any time, especially coming out of, we've came out of decades of crises and we always come out better, like the 2008 and then COVID. And unfortunately, a confused mind doesn't buy, a confused mind doesn't act. And when a black swan happens like that, people don't know what to do. And companies are just people, but groups of people and organizations. For me, it was really simple. We have to pivot. We have to pivot right now because I'm responsible for thousands of people's lives. So there's no thinking about it. It's test, 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 test. But then drawing out, like you said, I had lots of meetings drawing out what everybody thought in the company at the highest level, a bit of meritocracy, so that there's qualified people making decisions. And then we implemented immediately. Within a couple of weeks, we'd already sourced, found different product, and we're selling to move everyone forward, right? And I always was enamored, not about your ABCs of teams and the code of honor, because ultimately it's the psychology that I talk about all the time. It really is that psychology of everybody winning, a methodology to put into place so everybody knows how to win, just like the Buddhist monk said. And if you can use technology for today's age, you got to have technology as a competitive advantage, because otherwise you're going to get left behind with AI and all of this new technology. It's going to empower a lot of people, but it's going to disempower even more of a generation that forgets how to think for themselves. So I want to know, Blair, from you, what do you think about AI? And then I want to go into SalesDog, how to really bring out the best in anybody to sell, because that's going to be relevant for companies to thrive, not just survive or fail, but to thrive.
Well, your first question is about AI. And there's 2 types of artificial intelligence, right? There's the artificial intelligence we talk about, right? Which I think you're referring to, which is digitally based. Feed it a question, comes up with answers, makes decisions, expedites everything, right? I use it. Hopefully you use it. Everybody's using it now. That's artificial intelligence 1. artificial intelligence too is people pretending to know something that really don't. So they have artificial intelligence.
Are you
They
talking
think
about academics? Stop it.
yeah, exactly. They think they know what they're talking about, but they don't know what they're talking about. They think they know how to build a business and how to sell. You gave them the first. If COVID locked them down, they'd be hiding in a corner someplace because they don't know what to do. So that's also artificial intelligence. I think the artificial intelligence you're talking about, though, is can be a great tool. I've used it several times. Just I'm not a technology guy. You're much more of one than I am, but I think that what I know about AI, it takes the excuse away from you getting yourself out into the world. There's no more excuse anymore that I'm not a good creator. I can't do this. What AI cannot provide for you is your experience. Your experience counts for something. Your empathy counts for something. Your desire, your heart, your passion for selling, for helping other people. AI can give you some tools to give you some structure around it and can do it in a record period of time. But from my perspective, that's a tool like the tool you're providing that now leaves no excuse as a valid excuse on the table anymore for not getting on with your life, getting on with your business, and getting out with delivering what you need to deliver. I mean, right now, in your case with sales teams, well, I have no way to coordinate them. I have no way to keep them accountable. I have no way to motivate them. That's crap now because you've created a piece of software or a platform actually, possibly, and now with that platform, we created a whole ecosystem around it that takes that excuse away. So anybody still saying, well, I can't do this. No, you just haven't looked, you haven't accessed the technology that's put in front of you to allow you to accelerate. Bucky Fuller used to say that we have the opportunity when there were 7 billion people, he says we have the opportunity to live the lifestyle of 7 billion billionaires. 7 billion billionaires. Now, we wouldn't have the cash of a billionaire, but we'd have the lifestyle of a billionaire. We have the ability to do so much with so much more with so much less because of AI and technology and the combination of that and brilliant minds. Most people are afraid of it, trying to stop it. They see it as a threat. I see it as just strap me in and let me rock with this. You know, if I make my mistakes faster, so be it. That's good. Then I don't have to wait around so long to figure out what I need to do next. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Used to be you go test something, it's like watching grass grow. Jesus, well, is this working? Is it not working? Is it working? No, AI, we can shortcut all that. Let's move past that. Let's get on with delivering the gift. So that's how I look at it. I look at it as a magnificent tool. Everybody's afraid of it, and I suppose there's reason that maybe I'm just too dumb to see what could happen with AI, but I think for right now, use properly as a tool, as you say, with your heart and your passion behind it, I think it's powerful. I teach people how to build courses all the time. The people want it. Well, I'm not a teacher, but I want to teach. I'll show you how to do this. We go on AI. I say, what's your topic? Well, here's the topic. Okay, create a mission statement. I crank in the mission statement. Into AI, I say, okay, so give me a 1-day seminar on how to be a better parent. Whoop, done. Okay, now what's your excuse? Why aren't you teaching it now? Okay, it's right there. Now you can only apply it if you have some experience of this stuff, but you've got the whole thing right there in front of you. Well, I don't know how to market it. Okay, so hold on. Okay, we got that. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the next prompt. The next prompt is, can you give me a 30-day social media marketing campaign to get them to my introductory webinar on how to do this? Whoop, done. There it is. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. I'm going, I'm in heaven. This is amazing, right? Now, what makes the difference between you being a good teacher or not is your experience, is who you are as a person, how you show up, which is what the monks have been saying for years and years and years. It's the way you deliver it. Content, it's done, okay? But the way you deliver it and who you are as a person and the life lessons that you teach, that's the real juice. That's the value in the whole thing. When you said running around doing cold calls was not the love of your life, but the truth of it is we all had to make cold calls, not the way you do for sure, but we all had to do cold calls. but I wouldn't take it back for the world. It taught me something about myself that AI can't teach me. AI can't teach that, nor could it teach anybody else. So I think that it's a powerful tool if you understand the concept of teaching, of education, truly wanting to help, and trusting that you wouldn't be put here on this planet with all these wins and losses and wins and losses without a reason. I don't believe that we're just here by chance. I believe that at this stage of my career, and I'm getting on the other side of that, is that everything has a reason. There's a lesson. Why do you think I go up Kilimanjaro 13 times? Because there's always another lesson, another thing for me to learn, another aha, another bulb that goes on and go, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. Now let me go back and do something with that now.
I remember at the campfires at night, we would all gather around, right? And we would all talk about different experiences. And you were talking about experiencing the mountain in totally different ways. And I remember, you were just in a different space than everybody else because you'd done it I think 10th time when I went with you. And I got to tell you, folks, it was an amazing experience. And if you ever wanted a guy to do it with, you want Blair. And if you asked me if I would ever do it again, I would tell you 100% no. It was one of the toughest things to do in my life, and he's did it 13 times. But I did make it to the summit 100%, even through my challenges. And Blair, you helped me do that. And I've overcame other obstacles because of that psychology that you gave us on the mountain, right? So it's one thing, and you could have downloaded how to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in 5 days, but I don't know if that would have helped you from AI because it's our own experience.
It is.
It is the gold. Being in those moments, Bucky Fuller says it's perturbation because you don't get better unless you can get in the heat. Because that's where it says, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. I used to be a cook at a dinner house restaurant like Denny's, right? When I was 15, and people were screaming, yelling, doing 1,000 breakfasts a day. And you either deal with it or you get blown out, right? And that's a different level of perturbation. But putting yourself out there can be the greatest gift you can ever give yourself. I remember the first time I ever spoke in front of a group of people, I absolutely froze. I could go door to door, one-on-one with anybody, but in front of people, I completely froze. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. So I just kept pushing myself. Whenever there was opportunity, I was in fear, but I always said, go, because I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to allow this, whatever's happening with me right now, to determine how I'm going to be successful in life. So that was a trigger for me to understand something's wrong, right? Because none of us are comfortable in the beginning, especially with AI. It's unknown. So a lot of people fear the unknown. But when I started to understand that the reason I was doing it was from service, it really changed things for me, especially speaking on stage and going to your events. And I told a really obnoxious story at one of your events, right? Of something that happened to me personally, right? Well, it was a personal accident, right? But it's an embarrassing thing, but I just embraced it. I didn't care, right? But I went and spoke, I believe it was about 15 years ago for the first time in Japan in front of a bunch of CEOs, right? For Panasonic, Sony, all enterprise level CEOs, businesses in Japan. I was invited to be a keynote. And I went in there to teach sales. And I remember within the first 2 minutes of actually speaking, and I didn't know how to bring out the best in the crowd like you taught me later. I didn't. So I just went into teaching how I taught at that time. And I believe it was the owner of Sony or the CEO just stood up amongst, about 230 CEOs in the room, right? And he started speaking in Japanese. and stopped me from speaking. He says, why should I learn from you? You dress like any other one of my salespeople. What have you done before for me to actually want to learn from you? And the organizer of the event translated it all, right? And I said, well, I get it. I finally get it now. You see, I cannot teach you anything if you're not open. If you're not open to learning and you already think you know it all, you won't learn anything from me or anybody else. What I can tell you is I've trained tens of thousands of people in countries all over the world, and I've made a big difference in their lives. And that's why I'm here today, to serve you, not to impress you. And he sat down and everybody else stood up and they gave me a standing ovation within 2 minutes of training. And I just got it from then on, because I was nervous as hell when I went up there. I'd never spoken in Japan. I knew that they were going to be a crazy crowd, right? Really reserved. And I'm like, I get it. When I'm 100% in service, I never have to be nervous because I'm doing it for them. And that just changed everything for me as a teacher, as a trainer, like you're saying. It just gave me so much more confidence to know. But if I wouldn't have went through that experience, right? And if I wouldn't have went through that perturbation, and I watch a lot of people psychologically, you talk about this in the little voice, they hold themselves back, or now there's even a term for it, Blair. It's called imposter syndrome, right? Because people don't put themselves out there. You talk about that in your book.
They don't think they're good enough. They don't think they're good enough. They don't think they're qualified. They think that they're an imposter. They're trying to help, but they think that they're not good enough, which is like the craziest thing of all. That's why the number one sale is you selling you to yourself.
Yeah. And I teach a lot of people just that, right? How good you can be as a person, and people value that, you know? So the final thing I want to go into is your experience, because I know you, and I was there. I watched you train all of Robert's trainers, right? Robert Kiyosaki, you are the man. He doesn't trust anybody else with his people. When did that start for you? And how did it become like SalesDogs? How did you identify how to bring out the greatness of, because a lot of us are different. Like you, obviously, I'm not an introvert, right?
Yeah, I think we gather that. You're not an introvert.
How did you come up with the SalesDogs, really the psychology and methodology of empowering people?
I got it. Okay, so this is just perfect right now. So you will not be surprised to find out that I came up with SalesDogs after screwing up hugely big in front of 8,000 people. That's how that happened. Quick story.
Baby.
That's it. Quick story, okay? So we are in Singapore, Robert and I both, okay? Robert and I both speaking at an NAC, National Achievers Congress, you know, these big multi-speaker events where they have
I met
Norman
Vanessa.
Schwarzkopf, Bill Clinton, all these guys, right? Richard Branson. And he and I were one of the some of the speakers. So I go up there and I deliver this presentation on how to build a championship team. That was my thing at the time. How to build teams, code of honor, all that. It was really inspiring. I had them really active. I got a standing ovation at the end. I mean, it was like heaven, right? I have big video screens going, and I offered this little. This is how long ago it was. It was a little cassette tape set. Remember those cassettes? You know, the tape sets that go like this, right?
Yeah,
that you had a couple of them. You were holding them up. That one, that code of honor one, that was it. That was the one. It had a different name back then. It had a different name.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so I sell it $195 and we go to a break. And so people go to the table to buy it. Not a lot of traffic. You know, there's a few kind of people looking at it. Okay. Next speaker up is Robert. Robert's right after me. So Robert comes up. He's in a bad mood. He's not feeling well that day. He was supposed to talk for 90 minutes. He was grumpy, grouchy, sick, coughing, sneezing. You know, he only talked for like half the time, 45 minutes. And all he did is he held up his cash flow game. He had never sold people. Okay. He holds up this cash flow game. He goes, all I'm going to tell you about this game is this: the more times you play it, the richer you'll get. And he goes, and I don't have enough for all of you. Got about a couple hundred here, $195. Go. And you would have thought they were giving away gold. I mean, people were rushing the table, throwing their credit cards. And so Robert comes to me, he goes, "Hey, Blair, you got to come out." I was in the green room. He goes, got to check this out. I go, "What?" We go out there, it's the break. People are buying the games and they're breaking apart pallets. And the way it works is they keep the prior speaker's product on the table in case somebody didn't get it the last break, right? And so I'm watching, and he and I are sitting there watching, and there's so much traffic for his stuff, they keep moving my product further and further down the table until finally the success resources person just knocks it off onto the floor to make more room. Robert thought this was the funniest thing he'd ever seen in his life, and he's cracking up, and I'm going, I don't see the humor in this at all. he goes, he looked at me, he goes, "Blair, can I tell you something?" I go, "What?" He goes, "That presentation you gave was one of the greatest presentations I think I've ever seen anywhere. Only one problem." I go, "What?" "Wrong topic." I go, "What?" He goes, "What? They can pay $195 to deal about perturbation and how to deal with their bosses and how to communicate, or $195 to get rich. What do you think they're going to spend their money on?" I go, "Good point." So that night we went to the Raffles Hotel in Singapore and several pictures of Singapore slings. And he says, "Look, you've been in sales your entire life." He goes, "Sales equals income." He goes, "Look, why don't you, it's the same message. It's about the little voice. It's about code of honor, all the same stuff. Just put it in a package of teaching people how to sell, because that's what they want, is they want income." And then we sat, I go, "Okay, it's a good idea. So it's got to be different." And we had studied DISC and stuff like that and all these diagnostics. And we go, "I got an idea. Sales people are like dogs. Like you can beat a dog and they keep running back. You can beat a dog, just like a salesperson, right? They love you. They're man's best friend." So we go, okay. So we thought of all of our friends that were good in sales. We were a little bit drunk at the time. And we okay. So, this guy was a pit bull. This guy was a poodle. This guy was a chihuahua. And we were cracking up and we were drinking, having a great time. And so I laid out the outline and we came up with these 5 breeds of sales dogs. Everyone could be rich, but you had to play to your strength, not be somebody that you're not. Be who you naturally are, be able to communicate and help other people, and you can make as much money as you want to make in sales. Well, what happened was I got that book out with about 9 months and went from nothing to an international bestseller. And today, over 30 years later, that book is still selling like hotcakes all over the world. Okay. Why? Because it was one of the first books in sales that talks about you don't have to be an attack dog to be successful in sales. You don't have to, it's not a stereotype. It's your ability to be truly yourself and be able to find the best in other people and just help them. Find out what they want and give it to them. That's it. Find out what they want and help them get it. And so that's how it came out. And, and I think that my career all these years later is really about finding the genius inside of other people. It's not about transformation. It's more like a revealing or a revelation when you find out, look, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. I'm not good at all this other stuff. And I need to sell, but I'm not a pit bull. I'm not an attack dog. I'm not a schmoozer. I'm a tech geek. How do I do that? Okay, well, here's how you do that if you're that kind of a person. And it turned out that all these years later, it's still about finding the best in other people and getting them to see that that's their best and having the confidence to deliver from that space. And I don't care what you do. I believe that if you can operate from there, you will always be successful.
Amen. Big round of applause.
Funny story though, huh?
Love what you do. I love how you do it, because if ever there was anybody with the right psychology and has a methodology, it's you. And so that's why I've really worked really, really hard on empowering people with technology to do it as well, because I want to help as many people, as many companies I can as well. So many people in the marketplace play what's called the red and black game. And I'm sure you're familiar with it, where, in order for people to win, a lot of times they think there needs to be a loser, right? Rather than everyone winning. And that's what I see in you when you talked about collaboration, cooperation. I think that's what Singapore Airlines saw in you, DHL, that you always look for a way where everyone can win. I never have forgotten that. I even put in a module, and you're going to probably laugh, but, and I'm not talking about everybody winning without effort. Okay. I'm talking about everybody winning for contributing, because, you still need to contribute. So, like in the sales machine, that SMART framework: sales, marketing, accountability, retention, and training. Training is a full-on interactive training system that, has levels of development. But what I put in there under accountability and achievement is even contest or competition where everyone can win. And it's not just about one win or two, or first, second, and third. You can do that too, but I mean, what we can do is we set a time frame over 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, a quarter. And as long as you improve, right, from where you are to, like 15% per quarter or 20% per quarter, you don't have to beat the top guy who's been doing it for 20 years. You can still win a prize. You can still validate your hard work, right? And let's be honest, we all want to be appreciated. We all want to be recognized in such a way. So I even put that in the system, as crazy as that might sound, because not everybody starts out with that same level of competence. And if they don't have that same level of competence, they're not going to have that confidence. And so many times I see in companies that, they set these different KPIs or goals, or they do contests and competition, but they put everybody together, not at the same levels. And without the same level of competence and confidence, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the people who have risen to the top pretty much know they're going to win. And all the people down here, they just throw in the towel. Right. And because they don't have that confidence that they're going to move the needle or have an opportunity to win. So for me, it's all about raising the entire water line, because if you raise the entire water line, then all the ships raise up, even the little ones and the big ones, right?
Right. I look forward to diving into your stuff in a bigger way. Thank you for allowing me to look it over and see it, but I could tell that pure genius, man, pure genius.
There's a lot of Blair in there. There's a lot of Blair in there.
Well, thank you. And here's what I've learned over the years, John. There's some things that work in all cases, and there's some things that don't work in most cases. And there's some things that kind of work some of the time. But I think what you're latching into is that there are some principles, like what you just experienced, about how to get a whole sales team motivated. That just works. Why? Because all the principles of human nature, psychology, the way people operate, the acknowledgement, all the things, these things always work. Beating the crap out of people to get them to produce, that works sometimes, but not for very long. Okay. And so what I'm saying is that we live in a world that needs leaders like yourself that understand the basic principles of how human beings thrive and grow, how we've done it for hundreds of thousands of years. We forgot about that. And one of the reasons we have so much chaos is because we forgot about all that stuff. And we've got people teaching our kids and people at universities and around the world. They're not bad people. They just don't know any better, but entrepreneurs like you, like me, and like our friends, we know better. Because we have to live it in the real world. And that's why if you're listening to this, listen to John, take on what he's telling you to do, be a teacher and a leader. That's the greatest thing that you can do. Teach what you're learning. Teach what you're learning to your teams, to the people that are around you. Then we make this place a better place to live for all of us. The world needs it more than ever. And you'll have a blast doing it. I think you will.
Right on. Come on. I love to hear it, Blair. If you guys, I've already demonstrated like the power of Blair Singer from climbing Kilimanjaro. I got every single one of his programs, products. I've trained with him around the world. I've trained with him. He's made an enormous difference in my life, in my business. He's also did it, like I said, with Singapore Airlines, L'Oreal, DHL. You want to go to the highest level? Check out the valuation of DHL today, or Singapore Airlines, or L'Oreal, because you want a competitive edge and a competitive advantage, and you want to drive performance with your team. Let's be honest. You've got to have better training systems. And that's what Blair does. Blair, where can people find you? I know they can Google you, they can YouTube you, because you're famous. Robert Kiyosaki still uses you. I was with you and Robert in Africa. Where can people find you so that they can take advantage of your genius?
Thank you. Well, it's easy. Just go to blairsinger.com, blairsinger.com, and we got a whole bunch of very cool trainings there for you. A lot of them are free, just to check out what we're talking about. We talk about code of honor. We talk about how to present yourself in front of people. All these things are free. Just go there and consume as much as you can. And we have a lot of other stuff. One book I know you don't have. Hold on a second.
Hey, man.
New one.
I gotta get my hands on that.
Summit Leadership. This book starts off at Stella Point on Kilimanjaro. This is the study of our trip up the mountain, of all the trips we've done on the mountain, the lessons learned on that the lessons learned on that mountain that apply to your business, apply to yourself, apply to your life. So if you can't climb the mountain, read the book. It's all in here, man. It's just,
I climbed the mountain and I want the book.
Okay. It's the adventure. It's about being a summit leader. A summit leader knows that it's not about the summit. It's about who you become to get to that summit. That's what you do with your teams. It's not about just getting the sales goal. It's about who they become and who you become along the way. That's the juice.
That is juice. All right. So this has been really a great honor for me, Blair, and I'm grateful to you for it. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.